What is going on, everybody? Hey, this is your boy JC from JC Sports Talk, and today I have with me a very special guest. I'm not going to sell him short, so I'm going to let him introduce himself. And let them know a little bit about yourself and how you got into this business.
Oh, well, JC, Chris McPherson, pleasure to meet you, JC. That intro had me pumped up, ready to go. I'm hyped after hearing that. I'm like, my man's got this thing going. We got to get the draft going. We got to get the season going. We got to get some OTA action here. But no, my name is Chris McPherson. Work for the team, Philadelphia Eagles. I'm the senior manager of digital media. So basically what you see on our website, what you see on our app, that's basically what I help oversee and run on a day-to-day basis. I think my wife would always get frustrated when I meet people at parties and it's like, oh, what do you do for the Eagles? Because it's like, she's like, you gotta like embellish, like, sell a little bit more. You get to be around the players and all that stuff every day. I think I've had the opportunity, been very blessed to tell some amazing stories over the years. And I think it's just trying to help take fans on the journey. And whether it's through podcasts, doing interviews like this, stories on our website, stories in our game day magazine, our videos, however it is, we just want to bring fans closer to the team. And, I've been so lucky that I came on full time in 2004, Donovan, Doc, the TO, the Super Bowl run, just a magical year, even though it came up just short. Got to be here when Michael Vick came and took over things in 2010, was here for the Chip Kelly experiment, in 2013, when Doug came on to turn things around, the Super Bowl year, and just the chemistry that team had was so magnificent. And then the rebound last year with Nick Sirianni taking over his first year. So I've seen a lot over the years. It's been quite an era of Eagles football. So maybe I'll write a book about it someday. But basically, I'm just enjoying the ride. I'm a fan, just like everyone else out there listening, and I'm just trying to share along with everyone else because we have such a great fan community, and I'm just blessed to be able to be a part of it.
Facts. Look, oh man, like all these memories that you just brought back with McNabb, with T.O., with Dawkins, with the whole Chip Kelly. Yes, he did some things wrong and bad, but the Super Bowl, there's some pieces that got added on that wasn't going to be able if Chip Kelly did not do what he did, but it is what it is. But I love the Andy Reid era, the Doug Peterson era. I mean, it is awesome, man. Thank you very much for coming on this show. I know you have a busy schedule. So, hey, let's get into it. Last year, look, the Philadelphia Eagles, hey, I don't know what everybody thought, but I just want to hear your opinion from last year. What grade would you give the Philadelphia Eagles season? First season under head coach Nick Sirianni. They started 2-5, made a push, finished 9-8, made the playoffs, and got beat. So what overall your mindset was at that time?
Well, it's interesting because when he was first hired, Jeffrey Lurie, we put out the video on social media, and Jeffrey Lurie said, we're excited for the coach you are and the coach that we know you'll become. So they knew they were hiring a guy who was 39 years old, okay, first-time head coach. So in many ways, it was similar to Andy Reid. He was the guy that was on everyone's radar. I mean, Andy Reid was the quarterback's coach for the Green Bay Packers and never had been a coordinator. Now he was a head coach. Okay, Nick Sirianni had been a coordinator, had a lot of success in Indianapolis, was on teams' radars. But, if you were to talk about who is the guy, and we could go back to 2016 when Doug was hired. He wasn't like the number one guy. You go down all the lists and like, okay, who are the top hires? And no one would have had Doug Pierce on that list. Well, Nick Sirianni comes in, youthful, full of energy, wants to connect with his players. And the thing is, he came into a good situation because he had a stable front office with Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. He had some young pieces to work with, Jalen Hurts coming into his first season at quarterback. Obviously, the draft produced Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, some promising young players there. But you have the vets, your BGs, your Fletcher Coxes, your Kelseys, your Lane Johnsons, those guys to really help with that transition, because that's the biggest thing is the coach needs the veteran guys to buy in so that they can set the example for the young guys. So we get into the season. You have that promising win over Atlanta. Everything's high flying. Devontae scores touchdown. You just think to yourself, oh, this is coming together so great. Then the team goes on a bit of a slide. Okay, they go 2-5. You have that tough loss in Vegas, and a lot of people have talked about stories about what happened that week, what turned things around. And the fact that the players still believed in the coach. Okay, that's when coach had his speech about the roots and nurturing flowers, and a lot of people, were shaking their heads and like, what is this guy talking about? But that resonated to the guys in the locker room. The players and people in the building have said that if you were in the room for that speech, you would have been moved. You would have believed. Okay. So forget what everyone's saying on the outside. Look, everyone's going to be like saying what they want because we're 2-5. But the guys in this room, they've got to believe, and that's all that matters. And they did. Then credit to the coach because he didn't say, I'm going to keep doing things the same way. He looks at his team and says, I have a mobile quarterback in Jalen Hurts. I've got a backfield with Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard and Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell. I've got one of the best offensive lines in football. Let's run behind these guys, okay? Let's tailor the offense to the strengths. And you have a team that led the league in rushing, led the league in explosive plays, that really took advantage of the piece that they had. So credit to Coach Sirianni, Coach Steichen, the rest of the offensive staff for utilizing what they have to help get the offense on track. The defense was able to settle down. Jonathan Gannon's, learning his players, trying to figure out the best ways to utilize them. It was a growing process throughout the year, but Nick Sirianni showed that he could weather the storm through adversity, that he could adapt to his players' strengths, and he got this team to the postseason. You have a 23-year-old quarterback in Jalen Hurts who now has that playoffs experience under his belt as he gets ready for his second year as a starter here in 2023. So I think Jeffrey Lurie actually said it best. It was everything we expected and more from Sirianni. This is what we were talking about. Everything that we thought you could be and what we think you could become showed all the promise, all the glimpses of that in his first year on the job.
Look, I have to agree with you. Even when the Eagles was 2-5, because I'm always on Facebook, I'm like, hey, calm down. Calm down. We got this. Just believe in this team. If you've been an Eagles fan for more than a day, you know for a fact they will never quit. Like, there's no die in the Eagles at all. So you knew for a fact they were about to make a run, but it just when they was going to make the run. But look, we have so many veterans and the combination of rookie and veterans on this team. Like you mentioned, the Kelsey, the Cox, the Lane Johnson. Look, they all was behind Nick Sirianni. Yes, we didn't get the whole flower analogy. Man, there were so many videos out there, content creator making videos, including myself. But that's okay. It's not our job to make these players feel good. It's like we're passionate fans, so we just want to see our team succeed. But yeah, I mean, this team never quit. I love the fact that we did make the postseason after starting 2-5. I think we were one of 3 teams that ever did that in NFL history to actually start 2-5 or worse and make the playoffs. So Nick Sirianni, to me, he has proven himself. I give this past season a B.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with him, again, you go into that last week of the season, he was able to rest guys. This wasn't even like, oh, they needed to win in week 18 and fight things out to be able to make the playoffs. They already had everything secured. That week 18 game was a tremendous opportunity for the young guys to be able to get some playing time that they normally would not have gotten throughout the course of the season. They would have needed that in the preseason, if anything. Yes. So again, you look at where this team is headed. Okay, so you've got the playoff experience. Nick Sirianni knows what it's like to coach, and he's going to make his changes. And the players will be back in the building in a couple of weeks for the start of the offseason program. So he understands what comes with the job, because there's so many facets of being a head coach that it's no longer just, okay, if you're the offensive coordinator, you worry about the offensive side of the ball. You're addressing the offensive players on a day in, day out basis. You're worried about the offensive game plan. Now it's not even like the football stuff. It's you got to deal with everything that's going on with the football team. You're basically like the CEO of a franchise being in that head coach spot, and it's something that you could ask for advice. You could bounce ideas off guys. You could talk about what it's like, but until you're in that seat, you're not going to know what you don't know. So he endured that. He survived it. He thrived coming out on the other end of it. So he knows what he's going to want to do in year 2. He's got his schedule under place. And now you look at the talent, okay? This team has added some key players. Hassan Reddick, you knew you had to get the pass rush better going into 2022. Okay, you got to be able to affect the quarterback. The Eagles didn't do that enough. They realized that. Howie Roseman said at the combine, from a philosophical standpoint, this is one of the things that they want to do on defense. He knew it. He knew that they had to get better pass rush. They got their top guy in Hassan Reddick. They got Kaiser White, a player who had 144 tackles for the Chargers, a young ascending player, a player who Roseman said at the annual meeting with the owners last week, he didn't think the Eagles would be in play for him because he figured that he'd be out of the price range, But Kaiser White, who, played at Emmaus High School about an hour or so from Philly, has some local ties, grew up an Eagles fan, went to Lehigh back in the day to watch, Vic and Deshaun and LaShawn McCoy tear it up. He was like, I got a chance to come home. Okay. It all worked out. I was patient. I wanted to see what the best opportunity was. And with Alex Singleton leaving to go to Denver, there was a spot there. Kaiser White upgrades your linebacker core. Josh Paschal gives you a special teams presence, but a guy who can play both on the outside and in the slots, big, tough, physical. This is the guy who brought the dog mentality, who introduced it to Coach Sirianni. So it's like all the players knew about Zach Pascal. They were probably sick of hearing about Zach Pascal. It's like that. It could be like that ex, girlfriend, or that you're always talking about, or, the kid at school who gets an honor roll every time, or the kid who's a star athlete who's not your son or daughter. And it's like, okay, we understand that you want JC to be your son, but like, okay, we're tired of hearing about him at home. Okay, that's probably what the players thought about Zach Pascal, because when we announced that we had signed him, literally every Eagle was on the Instagram post, like liking it, saying what's up. Like basically, we already know you. So fine, he'll add that toughness that, he's a guy who's had to fight for everything he's had in the NFL. And that's the type of story that you want, the type of guys you want in the building. And again, the draft coming up, Eagles got 2 first-round picks. I have to get out of my mind that's not 3 anymore because it's almost been automatic for months. But they've got 2 first-round picks, 10 picks overall, loaded up to do a lot of damage in this upcoming draft class. So the Eagles are doing the final bit of pre-draft work and getting ready, because we're just a little over 2 weeks away, believe it or not, from the draft.
Yeah, and back to the offseason, a lot of people, is like, hey, Eagles are not doing enough. But they also have to remember that they did sign Mariota before the season, Goddard, Maddox and Sweat. Those were possibly going to be free agents that we got good bargain deals with before the season even starts. So you can look at it that we had a big off season. We just, it's not like throwing the money out there like, the Rams and the Chargers and the Broncos, all these other teams that are like one quarterback away or one piece away. So I love the fact that we are building small, but with great value. And Zach Pascal, I agree. He's arguably, to me, in my opinion right now, the second best wide receiver on the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm sorry. Like, I watch his highlight. I love his toughness. He's like what we want Jalen Reagor to be, in my opinion, just watching his highlights. So
I think the wide receiver core is going to be exciting to watch. Quez Watkins has shown so much promise. Yes. Can he put it all together? Obviously, the coaches and the personnel staff, they've had a lot of talks with Jalen Reagor about what he needs to do to take the next step. And I think the thing that they've told him is, maybe you came in thinking that you're going to have this huge role. At this point, with Devontae, with Quez, okay, now looking with Zach Pascal to the mix, that might not be it. Are you going to find a way to help this football team in a limited capacity? Or are you going to go out there and do what you need to do to be able to deservingly get more reps? So I think that's going to be one of the main positions to watch. And again, I don't think the Eagles are done. The Eagles can certainly still add to the wide receiver mix. It's another deep group in this draft class. And again, there's trade possibilities down the line. There's still free agency that can come up after the draft. I mean, you look at some of the most important signings this team has made in recent years. You can go to the Super Bowl year, with LeGarrette Blount was added after the draft. You can go to last year. When was Steven Nelson? Steven Nelson started every game basically for your cornerback last season, opposite Darius Slay. He was signed on the eve of training camp. Okay. He was out there on the market for a long time, biding, waiting for an opportunity. Finally, it happened in July. They brought him in. He and Slay were more than a serviceable duo there on the outside for the Eagles. So still a lot of work to be done. Howie knows it. Andy Weidel, the coaches know it, that a lot of work still needs to be done, but there's still time. And they're going to be working every angle, whether it's the draft, post-draft free agency, trade market, going up into the season. So a lot of moves can still be made, but overall, I just like where the roster is. It's building. They've improved in free agency. There's not one person. Okay, the Eagles have mentioned Alex Singleton. They lost Jannard Avery. They lost Hassan Ridgeway. Okay, you basically upgraded at all of those positions. Okay, with the additions of Hassan Reddick taking over for Jannard Avery, Kaiser White and Alex Singleton, Hassan Ridgeway. The Eagles have a lot of young up-and-coming defensive linemen. They had a Rennell Wren, who previously played for the Bengals. Marvin Wilson, who was on the practice squad most of last season, he's getting an opportunity to get reps this year. You still maintain Fletcher Cox. The Eagles did not lose anyone. They added pieces to the puzzle, and we still have a draft with 2 first-round picks coming down the pike. Let's see what Howie does in the draft. I mean, all of a sudden we say 2 first-round picks. He can move up. He can move back. A lot of things could still happen here. So that's why it's so much fun, because the Eagles are definitely one of the wild cards to come when the draft happens later on this month.
So what did you think about the whole trade with the Saints? I know some fans hate it. Some fans love it. I love it.
But what's there to hate about? That's the only thing I don't get. I don't understand what there's hate, because you still have 2 first-round picks. Mm-hmm. Okay. You maintain that flexibility. You get future draft capital. That's the thing is Howie's put themselves in a position where you have the added capital for this year still. Okay. If you had traded 2 of the 3 picks and only had 1 first-round pick, I could see where fans could quibble, but you still have 2 mid-round picks. Okay. Now you look to next year, you've got 2 first-round picks next year that Howie can do whatever he wants with. Okay. He can wheel and deal, they could be used for this year. We don't know. He has that flexibility to still do that. I mean, you go back to, it was the trade with Miami last year where the Eagles dropped back from 6 to 12. Okay. But then all of a sudden they move up because Devontae Smith was there. They wanted to get him, so they were able to move up to 10. They are able to go up and down the board with these picks. So to me, I just don't know, as a fan, you could not like it unless you just had your mindset on getting 3 guys in the first round. I don't know if the Eagles were ever going to do it. And you don't want to wait until you're on the clock draft weekend to be like, all right, our guy isn't there. Do we want to trade back? The Saints obviously have some game plan in mind. They were interested in moving up and getting the extra ammo. The Eagles are like, look, let's do the deal now, and then we can kind of modify our plans to go accordingly to figure out what's going to happen coming up draft weekend. So I just feel like you've added so much ammo for the future. And look, we get to cheer against the Saints next year, the way we did cheering against the Dolphins, keep an eye on the Colts with the Carson Wentz snap count. It gives fans something else to watch on Sundays up in the fall.
Yes, I agree. I never thought in a million years that the Philadelphia Eagles was going to draft all 3 first-round picks. I've never thought that in no way in hell. If you know Howie, you already know that he is always game planning for the future. You give Hurts this year to prove himself. If you don't prove himself, you still have 2 first-round picks. You can maneuver next year to go get your quarterback of the future. So that's why I never had set my mind on having 3 first-round picks, this year and picking all of them. I mean, that's just unrealistic for the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe other teams, but for the Philadelphia Eagles, that's not realistic.
Yeah, so, I mean, certainly, I'm sure they were planning as if they were going to. You have to have every scenario mapped out. And the thing is, I go back, we're going to go back in time here a little bit. But, JC, you've been an Eagles fan for a long time. I'm going back to the 2002 draft, okay? This is the Lito Shepherd, Sheldon Brown, Michael Lewis. This is the Brian Westbrook draft. And talk about those corners, because at the time the Eagles had Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor. Yes. And we actually, if you check out Philadelphia's.com, if you check out the mobile app tomorrow morning, we have a feature on Bobby Taylor, what he's up to these days. So you definitely want to check that out. But that's what make me think of this. The Eagles didn't need cornerbacks then. But you're looking a year, maybe 2 years down the line, because what your needs are today, they're not going to be the same tomorrow. Okay. Yes. So you look at this roster and you might say, okay, they're set at this position, they're set at that position. But if an injury happens, if a trade happens, you don't know what's going to open up. Things happen so quickly, so fluidly. I'm sure there's situations that we looked at, we could have said a year ago, oh, the team is stacked at position X. Now a year later, like, what happened to all that depth, or what happened to that situation? So the big thing is you just want to make sure you keep fortifying those positions that Howie believes in building. You know the trenches are always going to be in play. Eagles have a deep offensive line, defensive line, certainly strengthened with the offseason, but you don't know if they're going to be done at either spot because you look to the future. Lane Johnson was a first-round pick in 2013. Brandon Graham was a first-round pick in 2010. Okay, these are some of your elder statesmen on this team. Jason Kelsey is on a year-to-year basis here. And, you pretty much are wondering every year if he's going to be wanting to come back or not. So these are things that you need to look at down the line. Do the Eagles have, emergency reserves in place if they had to today? Of course, but you want to make sure you keep fortifying those for the future. So those are the things where you look at that. If the Eagles had to make 3 first-round picks, certainly they would, be more than open to it. But the biggest thing is that you're just trying to look at this roster. Where can we help now? And what could we maybe need to help tomorrow that we don't realize that we have to help today? But you still, again, have that flexibility with that second first-round pick to be able to move around. And again, like you said, possibly utilize those picks next year. You just go into it knowing that we're already one of only 5 teams. 5 teams already have multiple picks next year. So this is something that it seems like the teams like the Rams and the teams that are almost like the all-in on now are like, do what you want with these picks. We're going to take them away. But teams like the Eagles that are trying to, win now, but also can and still build because it's a young base, they're like, we'll take those extra picks. Okay, we value the future picks, and we'll be able to leverage them as assets in the future, or possibly on draft weekend. Who knows?
I love it. Hey, look, I agree. So I've seen a lot of mock drafts out there. So I want to know if we do keep the 2 first-round picks. What would you like the Eagles to do with those 2 first-round picks? What would your perfect scenario be for the Eagles with those 2 picks?
Yeah, the thing is, at this point, this has been the going into it. I think every year you say there's some mystery going to the draft, but I think we knew last year. Last year was the quarterback draft. Okay, you had Trevor Lawrence, you had Justin Fields, you had Mac Jones, you had Zach Wilson. Okay, so you knew that the quarterbacks were going to dominate the conversation. This year, okay, you're an Eagles fan. Okay, offensive line is strong, but where are some of these tackles going to go early? Okay, where's Evan Neal end up going? Is Ike Ekwonu going to be the first pick, or is he going to be like the 10th pick? Charles Cross seems to be the wild card. He may be the second offensive lineman on the board. And then if there's an early run offensive line, what positions get pushed down? Because defensive edge rush is also very strong early on in this draft. Okay, so you figure Aiden Hutchinson's probably going number 1. Trayvon Walker now is all the talk at number 2. All right, well, does Jermaine Johnson, does a George Karlaftis, do those guys? Where does Kayvon Thibodeau? He seems to be a wild card. So basically, I feel like that, cornerback, again, you're going to have Derek Stingley. Where's Derek Stingley? Had a good pro day today. Is he going to be back in the number 1 corner mix? Is everyone thinking with him? Is it 2019? Is that for real? Are we going to get 2019 Derek Stingley when he's, going against Jamar Chase in practice and Justin Jefferson in practice and locking them down? Or is it going to be the injuries and the inconsistency from the last couple of years? Sauce Gardner seems to be, in play to be the top corner if it's not going to be Stingley. But what about some of these other guys, the Trent McDuffies of the world? These guys going to, Andrew Booth from Clemson, are these guys going to be possibly in play? So I feel like that all depends on what happens. Do any of these quarterbacks go early? There's a buzz that Malik Willis could go as high number 2. If Malik Willis goes at number 2, all of a sudden we could have a run on quarterbacks. It could all of a sudden be, Carolina, Atlanta, some of these teams that obviously are going to need quarterbacks. Maybe they're going to now have to pull the trigger and get one. Okay. And if you're an Eagles fan, you want that to happen. You are going to sit there cheering that you want to see these quarterbacks go early because you want to push these other valuable players down. So I think basically where the Eagles are sitting, again, they're in a situation where if they need to move up, if somebody slides and they need to move up and pounce, they can certainly do so. And I also think that they're in a position where the positions that, again, I go back to what they emphasize, the trenches, cornerback, those positions, wide receiver, those positions are going to be available in supply. It's just a matter of which ones they strike. So I think there's a lot of tempting options for the Eagles. I'm excited to see how this all unfolds because, again, from the very first pick, and we still have a long way, and a lot of things will. News reports, the Schefters, the Rappaports of the world will get stuff out there. Maybe it's locked in that the Jags are going with Aiden Hutchinson number 1, and that starts the dominoes. Everything goes from there. But who knows? If you have a surprise at number 1, it could Detroit. Do they go quarterback? Do they go non-quarterback? It all spills from there. I just feel like right now this is the most uncertain top of the draft in recent memory. Maybe in 3 weeks, it'll all come to fruition. But I think at this point here, it's just there's so many things that are uncertain. I'm excited as everyone else, and I hope everyone is joining us. I'm sure you're going to have your shows all weekend. I don't know, JC, if you're going to get to the draft party at Lincoln Financial Field. We still have tickets available, but we have live coverage. We've got Ross Tucker. I got Fran Duffy. Spuds is going to be in Las Vegas. Ella Di Giovanni, who did a great job hosting our game day shows this year, she's going to be a part of the action. We got a ton of live coverage here on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, on the mobile app. It's going to be a party, okay? We're going to be celebrating. Eagles Nation, Eagles fans everywhere. We're excited for the draft, and we're just excited for the draft party because it's going to be reminiscent to what we had, pre-COVID. Gatherings are happening again. Excited to have the fans back in Lincoln Financial Field, so it's going to be a great time. And I hope, JC, you get to be down there, unless you're broadcasting with the content creators everywhere else.
How do we get tickets for the draft party?
We got just come to PhiladelphiaEagles.com. I think PhiladelphiaEagles.com/draft party. In fact, tickets are on sale. They go to benefit the Eagles Autism Foundation, a very worthy cause. Eagles have raised tens of millions for autism research and care and awareness the last 5 years. So obviously it's a personal thing for our owner, Jeffrey Lurie. It's near and dear to him. I'll be riding in the Eagles Autism Challenge. I'll be trying to survive 30 miles on my bike in a couple of weeks in middle of May. But nonetheless, though, money goes to a great cause. But definitely PhiladelphiaEagles.com/draft party. Tickets are still available. I know Pat, it's going to be a crazy scene, especially with the 2 first-round picks there that night.
Yes, sir. All right, so let's transition into Jalen Hurts. We've heard the rumors that he's been working out with Tom Brady in Tampa. Also, he's been working out with a throwing coach. I forgot his name. But so how much of a leap do you expect Jalen Hurts to take in year 2 full-time starting? 3rd year in the league.
I think the biggest thing for him, and we can go back to when he was at Alabama, is he's going to have the same offensive coordinator, same scheme for 2 years in a row for the first time since college. Okay. And I think he even said he had changes in high school. Okay. He has just not had that stability where he knew the same playbook year 1 to year 2. So even coming into the NFL, okay, you go from Doug Pearson's offense to Nick Sirianni's offense, okay? He gets a chance to master that. He's had a year, obviously, to be able to absorb defenses. And what I love from Jalen is the progress I've seen. I'll go back to the 2020 pre-draft process where you saw him throwing at the Senior Bowl, okay? And he's holding his own there with the Justin Herberts, the Jordan Loves, and you see what he brings to the table. But you also saw how it was in Alabama, obviously his backyard where he used to play, but he was a rock star down there, and not something that he was living in all the attention, but it was just young fans just all clamored to him. He just has that X factor, that it factor, where just guys want to be around him. And then even a few weeks later, a month later at the Combine, right before the world shut down for the pandemic, he goes to the Combine. He has a really good workout. You can see some improvement on his deep ball throughout the process there. Then he comes into the NFL, and he deals with a tough situation there, okay? Because obviously you have the franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz at the time. He's trying to find his way because Jalen Hurts is used to being the guy, but he understands the situation. He understands and wants to support Carson as a backup, but Carson's going through his struggles, okay? Jalen's trying to work hard, improve behind the scenes. He finally gets his opportunity, and he gets his opportunity to start against the number 1 defense, a team that at the time everyone probably pegged to go to the Super Bowl. Yeah. And Jalen Hurts tears it up and has a phenomenal start and gets a win for the Eagles. And then he shows promise. He has his ups and downs, but you saw the grit. You saw the never say die attitude. You saw the ability to throw the deep ball, the ability to connect with the guys. And the guys, again, just continue to gravitate towards him, okay? You saw the guys even though it was a lost season in so many ways, the guys were rallying around him. And then he comes in, he gets to be all off season. You know that he's the starter. Okay. The Eagles, even though Nick Sirianni didn't declare it publicly, Nick Sirianni had told Jalen early in the offseason, you're the guy. Okay. But don't need to listen or any stuff that's out there. You are the guy. You are the starting quarterback. Okay. And then he comes in. We talked about the early success he had at Atlanta. You saw what he was able to do when they transitioned the offense to suit the skill set of what this overall team had. But I just think that he can throw the deep ball really well. I think obviously he brings the mobility. And again, one of the things that we're not going to know, and I don't know if he'll ever admit, I don't know how much the ankle injury late in the season hampered him. Okay. Because that definitely, obviously, had some impact on his game. But coming out of this, there's so much promise. You just look at the ages that guys, when they win their first playoff games, and you look at some of the veterans, some guys just took time to win games, the big time games in National Football League. Okay. And not that we're sitting here saying we're going to give Jalen Hurts 5 years to win a playoff game, but I think you definitely should be expecting the growth of understanding the offense, understanding what defense are going to be asking. And from an intangible standpoint, you talked about he's already working with throwing coaches during the offseason here. He's going to be doing everything in his power. I mean, he's been at the NovaCare complex pretty frequently already this offseason. He's going to be doing everything in his power, okay, to maximize the opportunity, to maximize his talent. And the guys are truly, truly behind him. Just another important thing to have, that you don't have any dissension amongst the ranks. So I'm excited to see what he brings in year 2 as a starter. I'm excited to see that growth. But I just think just an overall better understanding of the offense, being able to deliver things quickly, having the understanding of knowing where to go, knowing the answers to the test. Okay, hey, if the defense is presenting this is where I need to go with the football. Okay. But he's also going to get these young guys to grow with. We talked about Quez Watkins. We talked about Devontae Smith. Yeah. We talked about Dallas Goedert. He has these young guys to be able to grow with in this offense. So he's got a nice supporting cast around him. Well, I'm excited to see that and to see what Nick Sirianni does, because does he go back to what he wanted to do at the beginning of last season? Or is it going to, and I think that's a fair point. Does he go back to what he wanted to do early in the season with the offense? Or are they going to come out and are we going to see what we saw at the end of last season?
Oh, man, I agree with everything you just said, especially with the whole Jalen Hurts having that it factor, that leadership, that thing that you can't coach and teach anybody. He went from Alabama, lost his job, went to Oklahoma, Heisman runner-up. I mean, he was that dude. And then he came to Philadelphia, mentally tough. He's built to be the quarterback.
The thing. That's amen. JC, that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing is from a mental standpoint, he fits what you need to have to play in the city. And he epitomizes what the guys want from the players in this city, okay? The mental toughness, the never say die attitude. He's going to give you what he got, okay? That's the biggest thing. At the end of the day, you're not going to question, did Jalen Hurts, leave it all out in the field or not? Are we getting the most that we can out of Jalen Hurts? You don't need to ask that about him, okay? You are going to get the most that you can out of this quarterback. And to going back to what you said about losing his job, you never heard him complain, okay? Never. He waited his turn. He bided his time. All of a sudden he had to go into the SEC championship game. When Tua got hurt, he gets them to a victory and then comes back into his backup role, okay? Obviously he wanted to go to Oklahoma. He wanted to get a chance to show his skills. And for a guy, he went to a big time program and took over as a captain right away. Okay. This wasn't like, a 3-year, 4-year guy who had, worked his way up the ranks and won over the lot. He won them over from the very start. Okay. Like you said, he was that dude. He was that guy. And we continue to see that. So just his personality is why so many people, and not just the players, coaches, the executives, they all believe in him because of those things that you just simply can't coach, that you just know that this guy is built different physically and mentally, knowing that he's going to give you everything that he can.
Yeah, I mean, good. So now the defense. I know Jonathan Gannon last year, his first year as a defensive coordinator. It seems like last year when we played good quarterbacks, he struggled. When we played bad quarterbacks, he flexed his muscles. I mean, was it the type of the players he didn't have, or that's just how Jonathan Gannon, coached his defense, like a little scary sometimes just based on the quarterback that he's facing.
Yeah, I think overall what you see around the league are defenses just don't want to give up the big play.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Now, when you're facing, the Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herberts, I'll go back to the Raiders game with Derek Carr because Derek Carr had probably the best performances all season against the Eagles. Look, that's not going to work, okay? At the same time, maybe I don't think Jonathan Gannon, I think he realized he didn't quite have all the horses he needed to be able to get the job done. We've talked about the pass rush and how that had to be improved this offseason. You had the interior pressure. You have that dynamic duo of Cox and Javon Hargrave, but you lost Brandon Graham. Didn't quite have enough coming off the edge to be able to offset that loss. So that's why you had to go get a Hassan Reddick. Had to make sure you keep that defensive line room as deep as possible. That pass rush, you had to improve it. So, because overall, like I said, you had Darius Slay, who had one of the best years of his career. This is a guy who was a three-time Pro Bowler before he came here, former second-round pick. He was one of the league's best before he got here. He had arguably the best year of his career last season. Steven Nelson was more than solid in his role on the other side. So I think it's a combination of Gannon learning the guys, Gannon me realizing that he's got, again, same thing. You got to play it to the guy's strengths, and then you just don't want to get beat by the deep ball at times. I don't know if we got something going in the background there. So I got some dogs chirping or whatnot.
No,
so
we good.
But I think the biggest thing is, I'm interested to see what he does because, you look at the coaches that he worked under previously. You think about the Mike Zimmers, and these are guys who love to dial up the blitz, that love to bring the heat. Does getting the Kaiser Whites, does getting the Hassan Reddicks, we'll see who we get in free agency or in the draft, I should say. Does that give him a little more flexibility to try different things, going into year two, having a better understanding of the scheme and what offenses are trying to do when they see a defense that's basically like, all right, if you're not gonna, you're gonna make us just dink and dunk all the way down. Good quarterbacks can do that in today's NFL with these offenses. That's what we learned. And you watch the playoff games, I'm sure, even once the Eagles were out, good quarterback play. It's, these guys are going up and down the field on the best defenses here, let alone they're basically saying, we're going to play soft and let you guys win underneath.
All right. So my last question for you before we wrap it up. All right. The Eagles and the Colts. Once again, they're always intertwined, but this time is a good thing. All right. So right now they play a big role in fighting for the OT rule to get changed this offseason. As of right now, it has changed for only the playoffs that both teams will possess the ball. So do you think if the OT rule is successful for the playoffs, that the following season that it will be, incorporated into the regular season?
I would say probably no. And the reason I'll say that is this is my personal opinion. I didn't want to see the OT rule change. And I know that I'm in the minority because to me, you got 60 minutes to win the football game. Okay. And I know everyone has said, oh, I wanted to see Josh Allen get the ball that one time overtime. You guys had 60 minutes to win the game. Then your defense had a chance to at least hold them to a field goal. Yeah. You had every opportunity. I think I can agree with it more in the postseason than the regular season, because the regular season, we're already at 18 weeks. You guys are playing, these guys are playing 17 games. You do not need to make these affairs that much more extended, that much longer. Again, if you're really that worried, go for 2 at the end of the fourth quarter. Okay. Find out ways to avoid getting it to overtime. That's just me. But I think overall, because again, you're just trying to end the game. Okay. But I do think that the toll on the players, the injury factors, the risk, I could see during the regular season, they would probably want to push back on that a little bit. But understanding what the fans have said, the desire to see, these quarterbacks each get a chance in these overtime games, I would think that probably is going to stick in overtime. Okay. And then there probably won't be an overtime game next year to even test it out, knowing our luck and knowing how these things go. But I would say I feel like it'll be harder pressed. And I feel like by what I've read, I haven't talked to him about it, but what I read at the league meetings, it seemed like that this was the best compromise, making it overtime only and testing it for next year just to at least get this point across. Because I think if you were to say we want to do it for all the regular season and everything else, no, I don't think teams would have bought into it.
Yeah, it was going to be a long season, and I know that the players, they were already complaining about the extra week, and now you're going to add on extra overtime until somebody. I mean, yeah, it's a hot mess. But I mean, this is the league. It's always changing, and it's always going to be somebody that's not happy. Even with this overtime rule, let's just say, hey, they both possess the ball, and the next person that possesses the ball went, oh my God, we should have 2 possession. So it's always going to be something like you can't please anybody, especially when you play for a championship, because it's hard to get there. So I could see if I'm the coach, if I'm the player, and I'm playing to go to the Super Bowl, and this happened, NC Championship, then I might complain. But
I'm sure. Look, if it happened to the Eagles this year, and if they rallied against the Buck, got to overtime, and Tom Brady went down the field and scored the game-winning touch right away. Oh, if they just had it, they had the momentum. If they had one more chance, I'm sure. I feel like that. I would right now sitting here in a calm demeanor would probably be like, I wouldn't have complained. I'm sure if that actually happened, we would all be fighting. Why doesn't each team get it? But this is legacy defining. That one Super Bowl just makes all the difference in how you looked at it. Matthew Stafford wins a Super Bowl. Now it's like, is he in the Hall of Fame?
I know.
That's a discussion for another day, but that's just how crazy and how life altering that these moments can be, that are decided to have it decided by a coin flip. I understand the frustration behind it, but again, you had 60 minutes to win the game. Get it done then, if you want to avoid all this.
Man, this was an awesome interview. Wow. I mean, I learned so much just sitting here, just listening to you talk. Usually, like, I'm back and forth. I don't sit here and listen, but man, this was an awesome interview. Thank you very much for coming on here and blessing me with your presence and your knowledge. Man, we have to do it again later on down the road. But once again, let them know who you are and a little bit about you, and then we're about to wrap it up.
Yeah, again, Chris McPherson, senior manager of digital media for the Eagles. Basically, look, if you don't like what you see on our website, if you don't like what you see on our app, the Twitter handle's there. Hit me up. If you want to see content ideas, hit me up. This is for the fans. Okay. Like, I don't have a job without you guys out there. JC, thank you for your service. Thank you, everything you've done for our country. I'm happy to be a part of this. I'm just happy to be part of the ride with Eagles Nation. I used to, back in the day, I used to travel on the road, and I would love getting to meet all the fans in different cities, and how a lot of them use the website and the app to be able to stay in touch with the team. And it's just a family. That's what we're trying to, we're trying to just build a community here, and thankful for all the interactions, the opportunity to be on here with you today, and to talk a little birds. That's basically what we're all here for, is to enjoy the birds. So hopefully we'll get to connect later on down the road, JC. But again, thanks for having me on. Thanks for everything that you and the rest of the YouTube community does in terms of creating great Eagles content, because like, literally there'll be a roster move, like the trade happens, and then there's like 20 YouTube videos reacted to it, and I'm just like thinking to myself, man, back in the day, I don't know if I'd be able to turn this stuff around that quick. So, but again, got the Twitter handle there. Feel free to connect, talk birds, and if you have ideas for content ideas you want to see, or stuff that not working on the site, the app, always feel free to reach out to me.
Hey, y'all heard the Eagle fan. If y'all have any issue with the Philadelphia Eagle app that is on Twitter, hit him up personally on his DM. Hit him up. If y'all want to see something on the Eagle, Twitter page, hit him up. I've heard a lot about you from Joe Castro. That's how I connected with you. As soon as I saw the interview, I'm like, man, you know what? This guy, I gotta have him on my channel. Is pretty cool. So thank you very much for coming.
Joe's a man. Yes. Good. Man, again, like I said, there's so many talented content creators out there. I just love that YouTube and websites, just Twitter, have given Eagles fans who want to have their voice heard. Okay. Because back, let's go back in the day. It used to be, okay, you read the newspaper, you listen to the radio station. That's like all you really had. You see the people, the talking heads on TV. It's like everyone is their own media market. Everyone's their own media brand now, and they can put out what they want, and they find their community to connect with. And that's the biggest thing, is you just want to find the group of Eagles fans who you jive with. And, if there's some Cowboys fans you like to talk smack with, you include them in the discussions as well. And you kind of go about and just having fun with it. Cause I think that's the biggest thing. We just all like to have fun talking birds. I'm blessed to be able to do this for a living, but again, it's because of fans like you, JC. It's like the fans out there who listen and consume our content and go to our games and watch the games on TV. So again, just happy to spend some time, and we definitely love to do it again down the road.
All right. Hey, as always, if you're not subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button and make sure you like this content. It helps the algorithm out. And as always, go Birds.